Hey everybody, how you doing? Once again, this is Pastor Ware coming to you again with your mental health moment. We're ready to move on this week to talking about how to deal with triggers, but actually I got so many questions from last week dealing with trauma that I wanted to just clear a couple of things up and make sure that we all have the proper understanding. First of all is this, trauma is individual. It's different for each and every person. So trauma can be something you've either experienced and had a strong negative emotional or mental response to. And so therefore the thing is, two people can go through the exact same situation. Let's say a car accident. Two people can go through a car accident. One person will have trauma with it, the other person will not. The other thing is this, is that you don't even have to experience it yourself. So it could be something that you witnessed that is traumatic, that you could connect to. Once again, it still comes down to whether or not you have that strong and in many cases lingering response to either an event, something that has happened, whether it's to you or something that you witnessed, or to something that has happened over time. So like I said, there are times when it's almost a cumulative effect of, let's just say you've had somebody that's yelled at you for years, then that cumulative effect can also give you some of those trauma symptoms. Now, the thing is this, is that trauma is something that can be dealt with. So just because you have trauma, it doesn't mean that your life is over. It doesn't mean that your life is impaired. There are definitely ways to deal with it. But one of the things is just to recognize that you have endured that. How do I know that I've endured it? One is that when we go through a situation, there's always going to be a shift in us. There's going to be what we call fight or flight response. That's always going to kind of come up in us. And so one of the things to look at is that if that response does not come down, and one of the ways you can look at it is this: if you are hypervigilant is that you always are looking for something, you always are expecting something, you just almost just have this nervous energy where you are just expecting something wrong to happen all the time. Or if you're in the complete opposite, you are numb. You get to the place where you just honestly don't care, where nothing really kind of matters, whatever it is. Then if that persists and lingers for a long period of time, we're going to be talking about months, specifically after what we would call almost a traumatic event, then that is something for you to at least think about, or to at least look at and say, maybe that might be trauma. Now, it's understanding that everybody's going to have different responses. So some person's responses is you can't sleep. And it's not just because, you got a bad bed or something like that, but you just can't stop thinking about what that thing is. The other thing is that it might be that you always have anxiety and stress. You always feel stressed. You wake up tired because you haven't been able to sleep well because you've been so stressed. And so some persons, even with high pressure jobs, those are trauma. You remember probably decades ago when you had stockbrokers that were jumping out of windows and things like that. We know about persons sometimes in certain professions where because of what they do, then over time that cumulative effect can add up to trauma as well. And so the thing is this, is that we once again want to let you know that trauma does not have the last say over you. Just because you've experienced it, just because you've had some of those pieces, it does not mean that means that there's a death sentence on your life in any way, shape, or form. The other thing I do want to be able to share as we go forward is the ways that you'll be able to deal with it. And so the one thing that we do know is that obviously trauma is something that in our community we've dealt with, but we've always been able to move forward, and you will be able to move forward too. So don't get down on it. Don't feel like life is over. It is not. And we're going to be able to talk about in the coming weeks how you can overcome any trauma that has come in your life. God bless you. Peace. See you next week.